Hi there. It's been a long time that I didn't uploaded anything from my IS250, but for today's video I have a unique one. As you can see on the picture, I removed most of the carbon buildup from my valves. The results are on the picture and I can say it's around 80 to 90% what I got from this cleaning. What you can expect from this video. I will show you the method. If you are alone, then it will be around 1 day. This is not a walnut plus method. This is also not only a spray method. You have to take off the intake manifold, and the pricing, I guess, around $150 with new gaskets and everything included. So let's get right into it. You will need your laptop with the service manual on it from the IS250, how to reassemble and how to disassemble everything. I will show you everything in the video, but from another perspective. Some plastic gloves, because it will be really messy. Some paper towel if you have a headlamp or a headlight, an LED. Some brake cleaner. This is a seafoam. I ordered also a treatment like a liquid seafoam, but after all I didn't use it. I just poured into a gas tank and that's all. The seafoam spray, I used around half bottle from it, but you can use also if you have a robust one like the BG, a really strong one, what you have to use. I learned this method from another YouTuber. The name is The Car Wizard. I link this video in the description below, and he recommended to use the BG one. I live in Europe. I couldn't order a BG. That's why I ordered the seafoam, because I heard this is the second best one. Also an endoscope if you want, but I didn't use that. This is actually a wire brush set, what I ordered from eBay. And the main thing that you have to have the brushes from metal. You have in this set 3 types of brushes, 2 from metal and 1 is from plastic. The plastic one, you can dump it, you can throw it away. Okay, the next one is a PCV valve. If you don't want to change it, then don't. But I saw a video, the channel named Marty Motoring. He did a video about this, how to change, and this is really just a cheap piece. And I thought I have to take of the intake manifold anyway, so I will change the PCV valve also with the other things. Those are the gaskets, what you will need for the intake manifold. This is the upper side. This is actually from gummy, from plastic. Those are also really cheap, if I can say. And those two, the bottom side, how should I say, the butterfly valve assembly, as I call it. After that, you will need also a compressor. You will see it on the video. I had to do also an adjustment with this compressor. I had to longer the pistol's head. If you want to buy for your air compressor from the shop a pistol head with a longer extension, then you can do it. I didn't had one in my garage, that's why I made a homemade one. And let's just say you needed everything, also a headlight, and also you wanted to buy this treatment from seafoam, not just the spray. Then you will spend around $180. Which is actually not true, because I live in Europe, in Hungary, and some parts are actually cheaper than in the US or other countries in Europe. So let's just say, usually without the treatment and without the headlamp, because yes, like I said, usually you have one headlamp in your house, then you will spend around $120. And I think this is really the cheapest way. Compared to the walnut blast, which is actually in my country is also around a $600 process. And then we can start the whole process with disassemble everything from the car. I'll show you this in a time lapse because you can find many videos on YouTube how to disassemble those things what I just recorded in a time lapse. And then when we are at the intake, I will show you everything what I mean and what I'm doing. So I just already started to take off every plastic piece from the engine bay. And after that, please disconnect your negative terminal from the battery. It's always a better idea before you start working on your car. And after you done with your job, then it's only maybe 2 or 3 minutes to relearn the windows and so on. Put your car into the natural position because we have to turn the engine by hand. I'm not sure if I can turn the engine when the gear selector in the park position. Okay, the next step is to disconnect and remove your coolant reservoir. I am also set aside my oil catch can. If you are interested in to add your car an oil catch can, then I have another video. You can take a look if you want. And also remove your V-shape belt because, like I said, we have to turn the engine by hand, and it's a better way to do it if your belt is off. Remove your intake tube, your airbox housing, you can leave it there in your car. The throttle body is the next step. I didn't have the right camera angle, that's why I just took a cut in the video. My bad, sorry for that. It's actually 4 bolts and 2 nuts behind the throttle body, and also a cooling line which you have to disconnect and just slowly set aside, like you can see in the video. I didn't pull it off from the car. And then it's time to work your way on to get out your intake manifold, and this will take actually 7 bolts, 2 nuts, and also, like I just showed you in the video, a rubber hose on the top of your intake manifold. I saw other videos which were American cars, and an American IS 350 and 250s, there are different hose or something like sprays fuel into the intake system. I don't know, but in the European model which I have, this is really just a hose, and I don't know exactly what does this do. From the 7 bolts, you will find the 7th behind your intake manifold next to your PCV valve. It's a little bit hard to reach and a little bit hard to get it off, but you have to do it anyway in case you want to remove your intake. And also, just to mention, there is one harness on the side of your intake manifold. After that, you removed everything what I just said right now. You will be able to lift off slowly and carefully your intake manifold, and after you lift off your intake manifold, disconnect the last rubber hose, and that's all. Mine is a little bit different because the oil catch can, but that's all. After that, I want to fresh and quickly change the PCV valve. You can see right now it's a little bit chunky, maybe it's a little bit clogged up. I will do it anyway. Like I just said, it's a $15 part only. Right now, I put some paper towel into the intake holes, and with my compressor and also rug, I will just clean the dirt what I have in the engine bay and around this aluminium intake piece which has the butterfly valves in it, which is I think connected to the VVTi system, and they can open at a certain RPM. We can start to remove this aluminium intake piece, which has altogether 2 wiring harnesses and 4 bolts and 4 nuts you have to remove. And after that, you can easily take off your aluminum intake manifold. And right now we can take a look how dirty is inside and how dirty are the walls. My car has exactly 215,000 kilometers, and I have to say maybe the pictures look a lot worse than it was in the real life. Because I have to say I saw already Volkswagen GTI and some other cars which had also direct injection, and those were much worse and much more, like they had around 3 or 4 millimeter carbon buildup on the valves. So in my opinion this is not that worse, but it's a good idea to clean them, like I will just show you. I had from the 6 cylinder only 1 open and 5 closed. And I saw that actually the open position is a very large position. I have to say maybe 3 or 4 centimeter. So in my opinion, it has, like I just said, only 1 or 2 millimeter junk on the valves, and with 2 or 3 centimeter of open position, this has to be okay. Also, if you don't want to clean the valves. I work in a hotel in Italy, and I live on a top of the mountain, and this is actually 1400 meters high. And my way to the hotel, not every day, but once or twice a week, it's around 10 or 13 kilometers. And it's a straight up. I have to hold the engine RPM around 3 or 4,000 RPM always. So I think that's why I have only just that much carbon buildup on my valves. Before we start doing the process, I want to clean this aluminum intake manifold with the butterfly valves in it, and we can start using our wire brush set like you just see on the video, and also the brake cleaner. And as I'm just showing you, it's a really easy process. It takes time, effort, and just be a little bit gentle, because if you turn those valves, you see on this aluminum piece you have a motor on one side, and you just don't want to damage it. After, if you are done with it, just spray it over with your brake cleaner and just set it aside to dry out. Get your intake manifold, the plastic one, if I can say, and change those rubber rings, which I showed you at the beginning of the video. Like you can see, I didn't know that actually those rubber rings can only go one way, and it's actually do matter which way you put them on. So you can figure it out yourself, really not that big of a deal. Maybe get yourself some paper towel like I did, and a tiny layer of oil inside the intake manifold. You can just wipe it out. And let's start. We can work on our valves. You will see a couple of mistakes which I made by the first cylinder, by the first intake valves. One is the seafoam. You have to spray in it and just let it soak for around 20 or 30 minutes. I didn't do that. I just shortly after that began to clean the valves, and this is actually not good. Then the treatment won't work that good as it should be. So let it soak for around 20 or 30 minutes. By the first valve, by the first step, you can put some treatment in the first 3 cylinder and just let it soak, like I said. And after 20 minutes, you can begin with the first cylinder. And after that, if you are done with it, then by the second and third, and so on. If it's inside for around an hour or maybe 90 minutes, it's also good, it's also okay. The second one, you have to cover your engine bay around the intake valves, which I didn't do by the first intake valve. The mess were everywhere. So treatment is inside, you waited 20-30 minutes. After that, you can start with your wire brush set to clean the valves. And I suggest to take a look the car wizard video, because he explains a little bit more about this. You should be a little bit gentle, but also it doesn't require a lot of work. And after you are done, you have to put your compressor pistol inside of this intake and get yourself also a rag. And when you trigger that compressor, then the dirty treatment will go out, and you have to have your rig on this intake valve next to your compressor pistol, and then your rag will catches probably 80 or 90% from the dirty treatment. But the rest will coming out probably, and that's why you have to cover your engine bay, probably also your hood and also your windshield. And in this way you won't make that big of a mess. Another problem was, like I just said in the beginning of the video, that my compressor pistol was too short for this job, and from the wire brush set, some wires fall off from the wire brush and stayed inside on the top of the valve, which is actually really bad. But after that, I made an extension for the compressor pistol head, so I was able to reach all the way down and blow the air direct the top of the valve. And in this way I was able to get rid of every dirt and every piece of wire from the intake valve. After you're done with the first cylinder, you can move on the second one. But if you want, and you will have enough treatment for this, you can spray again your first cylinder and just let it soak again for half an hour. Do your job with the second cylinder and so on. And then after that you can come back and do it again with the first cylinder. Another tip with the wire brush set is to use all the extension what you find in the set, and probably you have to use all of the wire brush bits from this set, I mean the metal ones, and also a good idea to bend a little bit of the end one of the bits, because in this way you will be able to reach the dead spots from the valve. And like I said, with the wire brush set and the extensions and so on, just work your way slowly and gently around the valves and all around the intake port. After you're done with one cylinder, give it a nice clean with your brake cleaner. Just spray some brake cleaner inside intake and blow it out like you just did with the treatment with the seafoam. After you are done with the 5-cylinder, then you have to turn the engine by hand. I cannot remember which wrench socket was used, but you can see you have to have a long torque wrench or a brake bar, the right socket, and maybe this special extension for it, because only just this one has enough room at the front of the engine. Put your wrench in it with the right socket, and this Lexus IS 250 and probably also the 350, you can turn the engine to the right like clockwise. If you're not sure if your engine is also clockwise, then you can take a look with your friend or with your somebody else. Pop your hood up and you start the car, your body or your family member, take a look inside in which way spin the engine. I did the same way, so that's why I can say it's clockwise. And just slowly turn the engine, and as you turn it, just look inside the open valve. Look twice, because you have to be very careful. And if it's in the closed position, then you are done and you can clean the 6-cylinder, the 6 intake valve. After that, you are officially done with your cleaning process. And as you can see, the photos are not the best, but it's like I just said in the beginning of the video, it's around 80-90% clean in my opinion. For me, it's a pretty good result, so I am just fine with it. And then we can start the process to reassemble everything together. First of all, if you are there, get your paper towel and clean the throttle body with some brake cleaner, and after that you can put your two new gaskets on, which I showed you in the beginning of the video. Position your intake body and connect the two sensors. After you positioned everything, then you can tighten down the 4 bolts and 4 nuts with 21 Newton meter. The next thing is putting your V-shape belt back. I suggest to look your service manual. Connect your hose back to the intake manifold and just place it there where it has to be. Position them on the bolts, or at least try to positioning, and look for every bolts, every nuts, every screws. If it's in place, then you are good to go. And then you can start the process to tighten the bolts and nuts. It will be 6 bolts and 2 nuts. And don't forget to reconnect your 1 connector and 1 hose. The bolts and nuts which you have to tighten, they are around, in my service manual, 18 Newton meter. Some of them is 16, some of them is 21 Newton meter. I suggest tighten all of them for 21 Newton meter and you will be just fine. Tightens your throttle body with the 4 bolts and 2 nuts behind it, and don't forget to reconnect your water joint holes. After you are done with it, then you can reinstall your air intake hose, if I can say. Place back your coolant reservoir and don't forget to reconnect your water joint holes. The last piece for your air intake system. And the plastic covers. Also, don't forget to reconnect your negative battery terminal. And I just started up the car. Everything smooth, no check engine light, no rough running or something. It's just everything fine. It's a little bit high RPM because I just reconnected the battery, but maybe you can hear it also. It's just running really smooth, and maybe it's just my opinion, but I think that right now the engine is a lot smoother than it was before. Thanks for watching the video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any question, then leave it in the comment section below because I might forget something.